This content is brought to you in part by Real Marketing, the only marketing firm recommended exclusively by the Institute. Real Marketing utilizes over 25 years of expertise, and their products are built and customized for you to dominate any neighborhood, anywhere. Go to realmarketingforyou.com. That's Real Marketing, the number 4, you.com. Also, look for past A State of Mind episodes with CEO David Collins as our guest. Well, welcome today, Malte. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is great. That was a pretty long bio, and there's a whole lot in there for me to have fun unpacking. First of all, you went to what is probably the most beautiful university on the planet, right? I mean, I don't know how you go to school when you're going to Pepperdine.
Yeah, not much studying happens.
Except for the valedictorian.
I may have been the only one.
So you grew up in Germany.
Yes.
And you played basketball. So you were a student athlete.
That's right. Yes, I grew up in Germany, and as a kid, started playing basketball at a young age, and admired Dirk Nowitzki, who, of course, a famous NBA player, wanted to follow in his footsteps and make it to the NBA. And that's how ultimately I ended up in the US and playing basketball at college. And then I quickly realized that I wasn't good enough to make it to the NBA. And so found my next passion, which was entrepreneurship.
So where did the book come from?
The book came from a lot of questions that my teammates would ask me. They, of course, saw the grades that I was getting, and they wanted to know how I did both the sport and the academics successfully. And so by the time I graduated, I had compiled a lot of notes on all the questions I've gotten over the years and decided to turn it into a book specifically for student athletes who want to succeed outside of their sport and set up their career after their sport.
That's really great. Certainly much needed when you think about the number of college athletes. What is it? Something like less than 5% of them, wind up playing anything professional. Not that a college degree is a terrific thing to get for free, but I really like that. That's why I ask about it. That's really foundational. How old were you when you did that?
I was 23.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, so did you come out of school and then work for a while and then go back to go get your MBA?
Yeah, I worked for a few years before going back to business school. And I started my first company out of undergrad that was somewhat successful. It gave me enough of a taste of entrepreneurship, and we ended up selling the technology to another company. And then at that point decided I wanted to go back to school and get my MBA.
And that's a whole thing all in itself, right? That Stanford network that you get to plug into and all of that, right?
Yes, it's a really powerful network and a very inspirational place. I previously had not been exposed to the tech industry to that extent. So being around other entrepreneurs, people from various industries who've been very successful in their careers and with big visions, big dreams, want to build things, was just great to be around. I took a lot away from that.
It's really terrific. And so, now fast forward, here you are, you've got this really wickedly fast growing technology company. How many employees are you up to right now?
We have 230 full-time employees at this point.
Are you doubling every year, it looks like?
Yeah, we more than doubled last year. We're going to double again this year. We have over 5,000 customers now across North America and Canada. And at the end of last year, we had over 20 of our customers represented on the Wall Street Journal Top 100 list.
Hey, that's terrific.
In the top of the market.
Yeah. So before we get into building a brand, right, I want to kind of talk about how you built your brand. Okay. So here you are. You've already bought and sold a company. You decide or realize that there's a gap in the market here in real estate. And in particular, in technology that perhaps is best outsourced, right?
Yep.
Can you talk about how you founded Luxury Presence and the investment community that you tapped into and part of that story?
Yes, absolutely. So back in 2015, I was asked by a friend who's a very successful real estate agent in Beverly Hills. Her name is Jade Mills. She's the number one agent for Coldwell Banker globally, has sold over, I think, 7 billion in her career at this point. I was asked to do some consulting work for her and help with her marketing strategy and specifically digital marketing. And so spent several months with her. I was new to the industry. And so I spent time in her office. I went to listing appointments. I learned as much as I could. And through that experience, decided I wanted to build a luxury presence. And fast forward 2 years, I had finished business school at that point. I decided to raise money and went out. This was through the Stanford Network, connected with a number of venture capital firms and ended up raising our seed round, which was a $2 million round. And then 2019, we did a Series A, and last year, Series B, which was led by Bessemer Venture Partners, which is one of the top funds that backs cloud software as a service type businesses. And so we've been fortunate to work with some of the most respected investors in the world, and they've been really great partners to us in helping shape the vision for the company.
So in 2017, it was 2 million. And I think I read that the C round was 20 million.
Yeah. So seed round was 2 million. Series A was 5.3. And then the Series B last year was 26 million.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. That's great. Congratulations on that. That's really terrific. And
Thank you.
kind of, so you take this idea, this is what I love, right? You take this idea, because everybody has them, right? Everybody in 2015 says, oh, this would be a cool thing to do. What do you think separates you from that person to the person that then says, I'm going to go raise money to do this?
Yeah, I've always found it easy to say yes to things and to try them and not be fearful. And in the beginning, I really didn't know what I was doing when I first came to the US. I didn't have a strong network, and all I had was work ethic and some level of fearlessness and perhaps some naivete to just go and say, I'm going to try this. What's the worst that can happen? And over time, I was very fortunate to meet some of the right people and connect with people that could help. But I think it's that optimism. And it's the reason why I feel so at home here in the US and in California, because people generally appreciate ideas. They appreciate people who go out and try and make something happen. And yeah, that really in the beginning, that was it. It was just, let's get after it.
So now I'm going to put you on the spot for the first time, but get used to it. So now, if I read appropriately, Dirk is now an investor.
That's right. Yeah.
What does that feel like?
It's pretty amazing. I mean, it's a childhood dream come true for me. Back when I was growing up, I would wake up in the middle of the night to watch his games. And I actually lived in Dallas as an exchange student for a year, junior year of high school. And so was a huge Dirk Nowitzki fan. And to have him come in as an angel investor in the Series B and to get to meet him in person for the first time, those are really special moments. And I have to pinch myself some time. If you told me that 10, 15 years ago, I definitely wouldn't have believed you.
That's really exciting. And I'm sure he's quite happy with your success, right?
He is. And, it's been great meeting him. He really is a great guy and, really fun to work with. And it's been a good investment thus far for him.
And he's taller than you.
He's actually 7 feet. I saw him last week at the Warriors Maps game, and he's a legit 7 feet.
Yeah, legit 7 feet. So it's not often you're looking up to somebody, right? That's 6.
He makes me look small. That's right.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks for indulging me on that. I'm also a basketball fan. So, so let's talk about luxury presence. So terrific background, great story. Now let's dig into this company. When you say you have, the customers, I mean, these realtors are coming to you and saying, help me build my brand, right?
That's right. Help me build my brand and help me grow my business, right? So it's the branding and everything that comes with that, but also the lead generation and the business growth and playing a role in that.
So right now, I would say at 200 plus employees, I mean, this is a serious going concern. So what does it look like? I know you have several tiers and, give me a little bit of a commercial on luxury presence so that our listeners can understand the business. And then we can talk about how you're helping with and the importance of that personal brand.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a technology company and a marketing agency. That means we can help you with everything and anything related to your digital marketing. So your website, your SEO, your advertising, and your social media. And we offer several plans. So regardless of where you are in your career, whether you're just getting started or whether you're someone who is already a top producer, we have different plans designed to help you take your business to the next level. And that can mean breaking into a higher price range. That can mean closing a few more transactions every year. That can mean establishing a brand that makes it easier for you to close appointments that you're going on. We have a number of software tools that we just recently released. One is a referral networking tool. One is a sales presentation and CMA tool. And we are making, with the money that we've raised, we're making huge investments in our product development to continuously innovate and come out with new to help our clients.
So if we think about what the Institute teaches and really the core of a successful agent is this personal brand, okay? And, for years, agents have said, okay, but I have the website that my brokerage, my brand gives me. And how do we explain that's a different type of branding?
Yeah, the main difference is that any page on your brokerage site is mostly your brokerage's brand. And what we find is consumers want to work with the agent and they value the agent, and that's why they choose to do business with you. And so telling your story and having a personal brand is really important because that's what ultimately why consumers are choosing you. And so when you think about your website, for example, it's really one of many ways where you represent your brand and one of the many places where you can tell your story. And I think a lot about differentiation. What makes you different than the person to your right and to your left in your market? And that's your story. And usually the best way to differentiate is to pick a niche, pick a particular audience that you know how to serve really, really well, and then to tell your story and connect with that particular audience. And I just find that a website is a great place to do that because you have so much space where you can choose what copy to use, what imagery, you can include video, of course, you can have a blog, you can integrate your social media. So there's so many ways to really tell that story and communicate what your brand is.
I think one of the more interesting things about serving real estate professionals is that there are a lot of different types of things wrapped up into one, right? So first they're entrepreneurial, right? They want to hang their own hat, hang their own shingle, and be paid for the work that they do. The parts of the business that you're describing don't necessarily come natural to the same person who is doing the job of being a real estate professional. So when you think about advising them, and I'm sure you've told the Jade story, but so here's a super successful person. She's still looking to grow, right? That's why she consulted with you.
Yeah, I mean, Jade is pretty amazing. Her backstory is incredible. She moved to LA as a single mom, got her license, and then built this massive real estate business from scratch. And if you meet her, she is still competitive. She is still picking up the phone at 11 at night. And it's because she loves it. She, one, wants to do the best job for her clients. And two, she is the CEO of her business and she wants to grow. And that's most agents, right? We all are entrepreneurs because we love the challenge of building something and we love the challenge of growing something. And I agree that the skill sets, they change the further along you get, right? In the beginning, it's you got to be a great advisor, you got to be a great salesperson. And then over time, maybe you're building a team and you have to learn those skill sets. How do you actually operate? How do you actually hire? How do you actually manage? Those are different skill sets. And then on the marketing side, right? Marketing high-end homes, that's a new skill set. Building your personal brand and actually doing that consistently, that's a different skill set. And so the best agents I find, they get really good at, a few things, maybe one or two, and then they get really good at delegating and finding the right partners for the skill sets that maybe they don't want to spend as much time on.
So when you think about what a, good personal branded website looks like, can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, your company's name is Luxury Presence, but we know that we're in a world today where luxury is, I'm going to say almost expected, right? It's so accessible and getting more and more and more accessible as the generation, the millennials and the ones after them, that's what they want.
Right. Yeah. And oftentimes it's the first place someone interacts with you. It's your number one salesperson. It probably talks to more visitors and prospects than you or your team ever will. Right. If you do it the right way, so many people will interact with your website. And that's how I would think about it. I would really think about what is the message that you want to get across, and keep in mind that people's attention spans are very short. So you have 3 to 7 seconds to capture someone's attention when they open the website. And the information you convey there, I'd say, is most important. And the way that it's designed is probably the second most important thing. So it has to look great. It has to look professional. It has to inspire trust, so someone wants to stay on there and read more. And then the messaging has to align with what your brand actually is, the brand promise that you're making. And ideally, it's pretty specific messaging that speaks to your target audience. And one mistake I see agents make is they try to be everything to all people. They sort of use very broad messaging because they don't want to lose out on anyone. And the much better approach, is, at least in the beginning, is to go really, really narrow and say, like, who can I serve better than anyone else? And what does this target customer care about? What are the problems they have? And how can I solve those problems?
That's
and then
not
craft
intuitive.
the messaging to it.
That's really interesting and not at all intuitive. So I like calling that opposite day. So now you've given us something to think about that's the opposite of what we normally think. We normally think as you're growing in a business and you're learning the business, you would go as broad as humanly possible, right? So give me an example, Malte, of, an agent's serving a niche early in their career. So what does that look like?
Yeah, I would start with your own interests. And an example could be an agent who loves horseback riding. And this agent could choose to focus on ranch properties and could choose to engage with the community of people that enjoy horseback riding, and think about where are all the places that people who enjoy horseback riding and who maybe want to live in a property that makes that lifestyle possible, where do they currently go? Where do they hang out? Where do they spend their time? And then focus your marketing on that particular audience. And your website could be as specific as a video of ranches and you horseback riding as a background video. And then the messaging could be, I am the agent for people who enjoy horseback riding in Dallas, Texas, right? And so someone who enjoys that and comes to the website will feel like, this is the perfect place. I found my perfect agent. There's no one else who knows this lifestyle as well as this person. And so even though you might lose out on some people who aren't a great fit, you're going to find that the people that are a great fit will feel a lot stronger of a connection. It's easier to cut through all of the noise and really be differentiated.
So what I was thinking about when you were talking is this idea of your brand connecting.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of folks, in particular, right, we train on this very thing. And the questions that come up endlessly are, around this topic, this idea of who am I and what is my brand? Because people think they have to be a professional basketball player from Germany and 6'6" and like, and just frankly, most of us aren't that. Okay. And so that's a great example of demystifying the idea of you, right? The person, and creating this connection with people. It could be around serving the charitable, community. That what agents I think tend to do is get niched into a neighborhood
Mhm.
versus the authentic who they are, and then find that it's very difficult then to get outside of that neighborhood. Is that fair?
That's fair. Yeah. And the neighborhood is one way to create a niche, but it's not a very strong way because you're still going to have hundreds of thousands of other agents in that same neighborhood. So you need to go a little bit more narrow and really think about the audience that you're trying to reach. I guess to give you an example for how to do this, if you don't know where to get started, I would actually start writing out why you're in business and start writing out what you want people to know about you. And if you fast forward, say, 20 years, what do you want people to say about the type of business you've built and how you do business? And what do you want to be known for? Because at the end of the day, your brand is really what people think about you. It's your reputation. And of course, you can influence it, but ultimately, it's up to the people you interact with. They are the ones, the brand exists in their mind. And so I would start there. And one way to do it is to create a mission or vision statement. I'm a huge fan of creating values or principles and actually writing them down, and then making your decisions in alignment with those principles. We have 5 principles at Luxury Presence, and whenever we face decisions, we go back to those principles and ask ourselves, is this decision in line with the principles? And ideally, the principles sort of level up to your overall mission and vision of what you're trying to build. And then the last part that I would also write out is what is the brand promise that you're making, implicitly or explicitly. So when someone comes to you to do business with you, what are you promising them? And then making sure that you deliver on that promise every single time, because we can help you create the visual representation of a brand. And that's maybe 5% of the work. The 95% of the work is putting it into action and actually living up to the perception that we've created via the messaging and the visual elements of your brand.
It's really great. And as you said that, I looked at the institutes. We have 7, and we call them guiding principles. And that's exactly how we run this company. As we come back to, does this fit that? And so really it's build your guiding principles, whatever they might be, and then the brand promise that you want to achieve. And I think what that creates then is an authenticity, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. Your brand should be an extension of yourself. It's a personal brand. And that's where you have the advantage as an agent over any large national company, right? You're a person with a personal story, with interests. You're someone other people can come to and trust. And I would lean into that. I would really make the brand as personal as you feel comfortable making it. That doesn't mean you have to, let everyone in on your personal life. Some agents love doing that. They're extremely open about the kids and families, and they post about it on social media. Others say I'm a private person, and you can build a strong personal brand without getting into some of the things that you might want to keep private. I've seen agents create strong personal brands around just market expertise. I've seen it created around certain lifestyles. So there are many ways to do it.
So how do you then, I'm going to put you on the spot. This is number 2. So you have this idea of brand, right? And then there's reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the way, right, does your reputation become your brand, or your brand your reputation, right? Like this is, I think, where folks get a little tied up in this, right?
Yeah, I think the two are definitely very closely related, and they influence each other, right? Your reputation absolutely impacts your brand, and the work you do to build your brand impacts your reputation. The reason why I say the brand exists in the mind of the audience is because you can create the most beautiful website, you can create the most beautiful logo, the best copywriting in the world, you can do all this work that we consider branding work. But if you don't deliver for your customers, word will spread quickly. People are disappointed with your service. They're still not gonna think highly of your brand, and the way that your brand is perceived is not going to be favorable. And so I think it's the interplay of those two is really important.
Well, I read that you used the Bezos quote, right, about your brand is what people say when you're not in the room.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And I think that's a terrific starting point for people, right? What do people say about you? Sometimes it's, I don't think anything is terribly unfavorable. Like, hey, if you get stuff done, that's your brand, right?
Yeah.
So now let's kind of take this to, I've built my brand. I've got it in my head. I feel pretty strongly. I've written out my guiding principles and my brand promise. And now I'm going to come to your company. And then how do you help me?
Yeah. So this is the fun part. This is where we get to be creative together and think about how do we want to represent what you've come up with, what your brand is, what your brand promise is, what your target audience is, and how do we translate that into the correct copywriting and messaging, the correct design. And that's a collaborative process. And we have designers in-house, we have marketing experts in-house, we have engineers, product managers, client success managers, and there's a team working on your behalf. And we really try and guide you and help with our expertise, which is on the marketing and the technology side, and then take your vision and translate it.
And so you talked about how that's, you're really your digital presence, right? And then tell us more about the lead capture.
Yeah. So the way we think about lead generation is a little bit different than what's been done over the last 10 years. A lot of lead generation in the classical sense was always drive traffic from, say, a Google ad, drive it to a list page with a lot of MLS listings, and then have a forced registration capture. And in order to see the listing, someone has to give their contact info. And so when you think about that from a consumer's point of view, it's not a great experience, right? The first time they interact with you, they're forced to give their contact info when really they're not ready. And I don't think anyone actually enjoys being solicited with, dozens and dozens of phone calls and texts after they've, signed up. And so we've been rethinking lead generation in order to align it with what we would want as a consumer. And the way to generate leads is by providing value. And some of the ways to do that is by, for example, creating what we call a lead magnet. This could be a market report that you've put together. It could be a video with some valuable content about a particular neighborhood or a particular lifestyle. And then you, as an agent, you provide a lot of that value on an ongoing basis. You bring people back again and again until they're ready to transact.
And you work with them on this, right?
That's right. And
again, that's not intuitive. Yes. That's that piece that you got to outsource. Not everybody can create content, nor should they.
That's right. Some agents love doing it. They have all the ideas, and maybe they have the team in house to do it. Others come to us for that, and we offer things like copywriting. We offer things like a blogging service, an SEO service, advertising. So any of these things that you want to outsource, we can take care of for you.
So, we're going to come back now full circle to the idea of why that brand promise and the authenticity and all of that is important. Because if we think about the clients we want, right, it's super important to be authentic so you attract the people that you want to attract, right?
That's right. And we've talked about a few things here that get easier when you have a more targeted audience or a profile of customer you want to work with. The first is the authenticity, right? You can relate to them in a way that's more genuine. The second thing is providing value. So lead generation through providing value gets a lot easier when you know who specifically you're talking to, right? Because you can then put together the type of content that this audience specifically cares about. And again, stand out in this really crowded marketplace via the content you produce.
Yeah, I think and I'll reveal that I'm older than you. Shocking. No, but kind of in my lifetime, I think one of the things in my business lifetime that's changed so dramatically is this concept of targeting. And this idea that, it used to be that you just marketed to everybody and people found their way to you. And today we have entire generations who don't know anything about mass marketing. They only know about seeing a post or seeing content that's relevant to them. And understanding that going into this is probably one of the more critical things, right? That's why you talk about you got to build it right.
That's exactly right. And it used to be, let's say, a magazine ad. You'd have no influence over who views it, right? You'd just pay to be in front of everyone who picks up the magazine. And what digital marketing and digital advertising has enabled is that we can get very specific about who we message to and who we show our ads to. We can personalize it. We can speak directly to them. And so for those reasons, it's a lot more effective. And I think that's the thing that I find is most compelling and exciting about digital marketing.
Well, I really like your company and what I've gotten to see of it and getting to know you better. And the Institute's really looking forward to working much, much more closely with you and your team. And I love the pace of growth, and it's really fantastic. And it's a good high touch business, right? Like I asked about the employees because that's what matters, right? The high touch is what matters. So you're investing in all the right things, and it does require that. It does require that investment. So any last words you want to leave our audience with?
No, Diane, just want to say thank you for having me on. This has been a lot of fun. And if you need help with any of this, feel free to reach out to me or my team. We're happy to chat.
You bet. Well, thank you, Malte. We really enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.